The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest is one of the most devastating events in Roman military history. The shattering debacle, inflicted by Arminius' betrayal, resulted in the annihilation of 3 Roman legions. With this video, we will learn more about the beginning and events of this Germanic revolt against Rome. To properly grasp the roots of this Arminius-led uprising, we must go back a few decades. Following Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul, the defeated tribes had been divided into Roman Republic provinces. During the years immediately after Caesar's conquest, the Romans paid scant attention to the Gauls' territories, especially near the border of Germania. This was due to the Roman Republic's infighting. Such neglect led to multiple rebellions by the tribes living there, which the Romans suppressed as time went on. When Augustus was declared by the first Roman emperor, the Roman legions expanded their presence in Gaul, with many stationed on the Rhine frontier. While these troops succeeded in maintaining a degree of order in the empire, they were never able to stop the Germanic invasions. In 16 BC, the leader of the Sicambri tribe led a successful attack against the Roman army. This led to the loss of Legion 5 Allides Eagle and prompted a strong backlash from the Roman Empire. Emperor Augustus gradually increased the Roman military presence in Germania in the following years. Drusus, his adopted son, waged a successful campaign against the Sicambri, Frisian, and Chauci tribes in 12 BC, arguably retrieving the lost eagle. Drusus went on a successful raid as far as the river Weser in 11 BC and reached the Elbe by crossing the Chersonese territory. In the early 1st AD, Germania was on its way to becoming completely Romanized. Several young Germanic nobles were also joining the legions as auxiliaries in the Roman army. One of these was the son of the Chersonese chief, who the Romans dubbed Arminius. He led a Cherusci detachment of the Roman auxiliary forces around 4 AD, presumably after serving in the Pannonian Wars in the Balkans. Arminius then headed back to northern Germania in 7 or 8 AD, where the Romans controlled the areas of the Rhine and sought to expand their influence in the Weser and Elbe rivers. Arminius was not happy with Drusus's excursion into the Cherusci's lands a few years earlier. He also disapproved of Roman culture and thought that the Romans mistreated the Germanic people. Arminius secretly began plotting to unite different Germanic tribes against the Roman Empire. By 7 AD, Publius Quintilius Varus had become the new governor of Germania. Albeit not an experienced military man, Varus was provided with 3 legions, numerous auxiliaries, and cavalry, in case he faced any fighting during his planned peaceful Romanization of Germania. Varus relied on his Germanic allies, including Arminius, unaware that the latter had been secretly plotting against Rome since his return to Germania. He needed to unite the Germanic tribes, which had mutual feuds. Arminius started by convincing communities to ask for Roman help with different local issues. Some needed protection from thieves, others required escorts for supply convoys, and some wanted to avert civil unrest. While many faulted Varus's oppressive rule for the uprising, historians claim that he was trying to do right by the region. He spread his troops out as requested by the Germanics and focused on legal and administrative matters. Varus's strategy consisted of crossing the Rhine, marching towards the Cherusci's territory, resupplying the garrisons along the way, and setting up camp in lands deemed pacified. But now, the Cherusci were able to monitor the Romans' movements, which meant that they would have a longer journey back to their winter headquarters. During the march, the Romans would be vulnerable to an ambush in favorable terrain for Arminius. In 9 AD, external difficulties obliged Varus and his legions to move out of camp. Arminius had launched the attacks himself, unbeknownst to Varus. Arminius advised him to send troops to stop the unrest, splitting up the Roman forces. Having received these reports from Arminius, Varus immediately gathered his army and left to face the enemy. By doing so, Varus undermined his troops by sending out several small detachments, then marching with an army encumbered by a large baggage convoy and camp followers, including the soldiers' families. Arminius offered Cherusci support, but Segestes, another tribal leader, alerted Varus to a trap planned by Arminius. Segestes wanted him to reject Arminius' offer, arresting him as a traitor. But Varus refused to believe Segestes, possibly because of a personal problem he had with Arminius. Varus perhaps assumed that Segestes was nursing a grudge and wanted revenge. On the morning of September the 7th, 9 AD, the Roman army got ready to leave. Arminius told Varus that he needed to prepare his own forces. Arminius left some Cherusi to act as guides, but they were in fact spies. Varus was unaware that Arminius was assembling a Germanic army, including the Cherusi and Chauci. When they arrived the next day in the Teutoburg Forest, the Germanics charged at the Romans. Arminius corralled the enemy soldiers within the forest and a swamp, stopping them from regrouping. The swampy, densely wooded terrain prevented the Roman legions from maneuvering effectively. Varus had made a dreadful mistake by relying on Arminius and aggravated the situation by positioning his legions poorly, underestimating the Germanic tribe's strength and exaggerating his ability to intimidate the rebels. Varus decided to set up camp after a torrential downpour, given how difficult it was to push ahead. He convened his war council to discuss the situation. The Romans attempted to escape, but fell into another of Arminius' traps. The narrow passage between the forest and the swamp had been blocked by a trench and an earthen wall, putting the Germanic alliance at an advantage. A failed attempt to breach the wall led to desertion of some officers and a relentless Germanic offensive. The 30,000-strong army was destroyed without any chance of recovery. Most legionnaires were killed on the spot, while some senior officers were led into the sacred groves and ruthlessly sacrificed. 3 legions, 17, 18, and 19, were massacred, along with 6 cohorts of auxiliary infantry and 3 cavalry wings. Arminius ordered his men to find Varus's body among the dead and sent his head to Maroboduus, chief of the Marcomanni, hoping to influence him to join his revolt. He probably did this because he did not expect a total victory against the Romans, trying to build a tribal coalition for a possible protracted war. But Maroboduus had no interest in such an alliance and sent Varus's head home for a proper burial. Rome was shaken by this defeat, since only the Alps protected the city from a potential Germanic invasion. Suetonius reported that Augustus was profoundly afflicted, lamenting the loss of his men several times. He went into mourning, grew a beard and hair for a month, roaming the palace while banging his head on the walls, crying out, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions." Then Augustus summoned his legions to the palace. Legions 1 Germanica and 16 were placed to reinforce the Roman defenses, but legions 17, 18, and 19, destroyed by Arminius, were never rebuilt, and their titles were forever abandoned. The Romans started planning their revenge. Having served in the Roman army, Arminius understood the Romans' ability to bounce back and their unrelenting determination to hunt down their enemies. Following the battle, there were intense negotiations, and Arminius tried to unite the tribes against Rome, while the Romans harshly threatened those who joined. In the following year, 10 AD, Tiberius, Augustus's heir, headed the Roman counterattack. Tiberius was promptly deployed to reinforce the Rhine frontier and massed 8 legions along the provinces of Upper and Lower Germania. Despite expecting a Germanic invasion, Arminius and his troops scattered towards home, displaying their spoils. Tiberius then undertook punitive expeditions against the Germanic tribes. The Roman reputation was severely damaged, requiring years of grueling campaigns to begin to recover. In 11 AD, Germanicus Julius Caesar, who had acquired experience in Pannonia, joined Tiberius on the Rhine frontier. With Augustus aging, Tiberius returned to Rome in 13 AD to assure the succession to the Roman throne. Arminius, notwithstanding his fresh victory, knew that his troops could not match Tiberius's legionaries and shunned direct confrontation. He opted to take refuge in the forests, confounding Roman strategy, which normally sought to attack what was most valuable to the enemy. But Germania had few rich cities or crops to tap into. The Romans made several displays of strength in the following years, but did not try to make a serious conquest of the region. The incursions into Germania were unsuccessful, but they served as a reminder to Arminius that Rome had not forgotten him, despite other internal and cross-border issues. We will see more in a future video about how the Romans, under the leadership of the young general Germanicus, finally managed to take revenge on the Germanic tribes. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.